I want you to imagine, just for a second, the most enlightened, free-thinking, totally rules-free romantic relationship possible.
Oh boy. Setting the bar high right out of the gate.
Right. Just picture it. You've completely stripped away all of that, like, heavy societal baggage we all carry around. You've banished jealousy entirely.
A philosophical utopia.
Exactly. You've thrown out traditional monogamy expectations. You and your partner are just existing on this elevated, almost sparkling plane of pure logic and open-mindedness. It sounds incredibly peaceful, doesn't it?
It sounds like a lot of work, but yeah, peaceful in theory.
But now I want you to imagine that beautiful, perfectly constructed philosophical utopia just exploding into a literal physical turf war on a suburban front lawn.
Like bared teeth and thrown punches.
Yes, puffed chests, grabbing each other by the hair.
It is an incredibly jarring visual to hold in your head. But, when you look at the history of these kinds of utopian social experiments...
Especially the free love ones.
Right, especially those. That violent, chaotic implosion is actually a remarkably common trajectory. The philosophy almost always eventually collides with the biology.
And that spectacular collision between our highest human ideals and, well, absolute primate chaos is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
We have some truly fantastic source material to unpack today.
We really do. It's this highly self-deprecating, wildly entertaining essay, basically a book excerpt. And it's titled, Free Love Causes War.
Which, the title alone does a lot of heavy lifting.
Oh, for sure.
It sets the stakes right away. It takes these two concepts we usually put at opposite ends of the spectrum, the boundless generosity of free love and the zero-sum destruction of war, and draws a direct line between them.
And to accompany this text, the author provided a visual aid. But when you think of a visual aid for an evolutionary biology piece, you probably picture like a complex chart.
A phylogenetic tree of human migration, maybe?
Right, or some graph showing hormone levels.
Yeah.
But the author didn't give us any of that. He gave us a simple, stark image of a standard female stick figure.
Just the basic restroom door icon.
Exactly. You listening right now know the exact image. The universal symbol on literally every women's public restroom. The floating circle head, the triangle dress, the straight lines for legs and arms.
It might seem almost absurdly simplistic, at first glance. But within the context of this essay, it serves as a brilliant visual metaphor.
Because it forces us to strip everything away.
Right. It is the ultimate reduction.
It strips away fashion, cultural background, our careers, socioeconomic status, all of our intricate social constructs. It reduces the human form to its most basic, functional, biological essence.
Which is exactly what we need to do for this topic.
Yeah, and I know this sounds incredibly clinical, maybe even jarring, but we're talking about reducing humanity down to the foundational categories of womb carriers and sperm makers.
It's the unvarnished lens we have to adopt if we actually want to understand the underlying mechanics of human behavior.
Our mission today.
Exactly. The goal here is to uncover the biological why behind our actions. We're going to explore why our massive, highly evolved brain, the neocortex that lets us invent things like abstract philosophy.
And non-monogamy dating apps.
Right. Why that brain is constantly, almost comically, being hijacked by our ancient primal survival instincts.
We're going to find out why free love is, biologically speaking, one of the most expensive things a human being can attempt. So let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
The author starts the narrative by painting this very specific picture of his own past. He describes himself as having been, a few decades ago, one of those aggressively non-monogamous, free and easy California guys.
Ah, yes. He was firmly entrenched in what George Bush Sr. once famously called the hot tub crowd.
The hot tub crowd. That phrase just instantly gives you the era and the vibe, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a very specific demographic that emerged largely on the West Coast. They prided themselves on actively rejecting traditional bourgeois values.
They thought they were the vanguard of human consciousness.
Exactly. And he paints himself as the absolute poster child for this movement.
Oh, he was smug about it. He says he was living the carefree life of an alpha gorilla, but like an enlightened one.
Because he was a vegetarian.
Right. He had his philosophical ideals totally dialed in. He believed love should be completely free, sex should be non-exclusive, and that possessive passion was an oxymoron.
In his mind, if you were passionate, you couldn't be possessive.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
He honestly believed he was living in what he calls a pornotopia.
Which is just, the sheer hubris is fascinating from a psychological standpoint. He genuinely believed he had outsmarted human nature just by sheer willpower and reading the right books.
It's wild. So The text outlines that he had one primary girlfriend, and according to him, she was totally fine with him sleeping with his harem.
Right, because they were supposedly so highly evolved.
Yeah, they were intellectually close, so she was his confidant. She wanted to hear all the intimate details of his encounters with other women. And it was all smooth sailing until the inciting incident.
Because the system, as he designed it, only functioned as long as the flow of information and vulnerability was moving in one very specific, controlled direction.
It had to be on his terms.
Exactly. The moment that flow reversed, the entire theoretical framework collapsed.
The facade completely cracked the moment he decided to take the intimate details of their relationship and confide them to another woman in his harem.
That was the invisible tripwire.
And when his primary girlfriend found out he had shared their secrets with an outsider, she didn't react with a calm, measured dialogue about the nature of privacy.
No, she did not.
He specifically notes that she put on a massive, terrifying display in his kitchen, hurling glassware against the walls.
And hitting these piercing, shrieking high notes.
Yeah, he said she sounded like an enraged chimpette.
Notice the specific vocabulary he uses there in retrospect. He doesn't say she was betrayed or hurt. He immediately reaches for primatology.
An enraged chimpette.
Right. He recognized, after the fact, that he was witnessing a primal threat display, not a philosophical disagreement.
But I have to push back on this guy a little bit for everyone listening.
Oh.
Like, can we really just blame ancient biology for this? Or was this guy just being incredibly willfully naive about basic human emotions?
That's a fair question.
I mean, wasn't he just a massive narcissist who ignored the fact that people get hurt when you betray their trust?
It's a crucial distinction, but the mechanism behind his narcissism is what's interesting. His initial reaction to her kitchen meltdown was pure disdain.
Right, he didn't care at all.
He had zero empathy. He didn't think, oh, I've wounded her. His immediate thought was, what is her problem? Doesn't she know possessiveness is an outdated emotion?
She viewed trust as a commodity. He writes, surely she didn't think intimacy should be restricted, that my trust was something she owned.
He literally uses the word owned.
Which is so telling.
It's the absolute crux of his fundamental misunderstanding of biology. He was operating under this idealized notion that love should be untethered and devoid of any expectation of return investment.
Like it shouldn't cost anything.
Right. But he was completely ignoring the evolutionary reality of what intimacy actually is and what it's designed to do in our species.
He thought he could just opt out of human nature because he bought a hot tub.
Exactly.
It's like he viewed human emotions as an app on his phone that he could just delete to save storage space.
That's a very apt way to look at it. He was fine with her having intimate friendships with their male friends because he thought he was expanding this circle of peace.
He even thought she should brag to other women about his sexual prowess.
Which is just, wow. But he fundamentally misunderstood the biological purpose of intimacy. It's not just recreational or philosophical.
It's a binding mechanism.
Precisely. From a strict evolutionary standpoint, it's an incredibly powerful binding mechanism designed to secure an alliance that ensures the survival of offspring.
So his pornotopia was just a house of cards. And to his credit, he admits that his intellectual high ground didn't last long once the tables were fully turned on him.
Because theoretical philosophy is easy until it becomes physical reality.
And when it becomes physical reality, it's spectacular to read. So remember, he's totally fine with her having deep emotional friendships with the other guys in the commune.
Up until the exact moment she actually sleeps with one of them.
Yes. The millisecond it becomes physical, all of his open-minded philosophy evaporates. He describes feeling this overwhelming, immediate urge to bash my hippie friend's skull with a big club.
The vocabulary shifts instantaneously from French philosophy to prehistoric weaponry.
He doesn't go to couples therapy. He goes straight to the front lawn. He faces off with his former friend on the front lawn, which he specifically identifies as territory.
Of course he does.
And I want to paint this picture for you listening, because the visual is absurd. It is the clash of the sensitive New Age guys. They are baring their canines at each other.
Puffing out their chests.
Puffing chests, hooting, aggressively shoving each other, stamping their feet in it. They grab each other by their long, flowing ponytails.
It's objectively hilarious. But if you strip away the 1980s aesthetic, it's a textbook description of a primate threat display.
Oh, totally.
The puffed chest makes the animal appear larger to a rival. Baring the teeth is a universal mammalian signal to show off weapons, the canines.
And the hooting is just pure intimidation.
Exactly. What he's describing is straight out of a Jane Goodall documentary on chimpanzee territorial disputes. It just happens to feature guys in Birkenstocks who probably eat an organic macrobiotic diet.
And the madness didn't stop of him. He describes this single event as the Chernobyl of their commune. The entire hot tub tribe switched their ideals overnight,
Peace and love vanished.
instantly replaced by war and hate. Hippie chicks who meditated together were literally grabbing each other's necklaces trying to garrote one another.
And the guy with the love child.
Yes. The kicker, the guy who had fathered a love child with another woman, suddenly got hit upside the head with what the author calls the business end of maternal instincts.
So the mother wanted exclusive resource.
The commune went the way of communism. It melted down when it met human nature.
And if we look past the humor, the underlying reality he arrives at is profound. He hits a hard biological truth. Sex and intimacy are not gentle gifts from the universe meant to make us self-actualized.
They're expensive.
They are incredibly biologically expensive responsibilities, and the emotions surrounding them were constructed by life and death competition on the Pleistocene savanna.
The Pleistocene savanna. Just to ground us, we're talking about the ancient African landscape where our hominid ancestors evolved over millions of years, right?
Correct. For hundreds of thousands of years, that environment was unforgiving. Every day was a struggle for caloric intake and predator avoidance.
Survival and reproduction were a strict zero-sum game.
Exactly. If your rival successfully mated and you didn't, your genetic line was extinguished forever. And the author makes this terrifying assertion that our glands, our endocrine system, hormones, adrenaline, are basically built-in booby traps.
Booby traps, I love that. But how does that actually work mechanically? Are our hormones just waiting to sabotage us?
Kind of, yeah. The endocrine system doesn't care about your philosophy. It's wired to trigger a massive physiological cascade. The absolute moment it detects that somebody has threatened your reproductive interests.
So when he found out his girlfriend slept with his friend,
His brain didn't process it as a breach of social etiquette. His hypothalamus triggered his adrenal glands to dump massive amounts of adrenaline and cortisol into his bloodstream.
it was preparing his body to fight to the death to defend his genetic lineage.
Precisely.
It makes me think of an analogy. Imagine that modern humans are smartphones. We are walking around right now running the absolute latest, most sophisticated operating system, let's call it iOS culture.
I like this.
This software is amazing. It has complex philosophy, modern art, ethical frameworks, non-monogamy dating apps. It feels advanced. But the hardware, the actual motherboard and battery powering that phone were built 1 million years ago in a dusty factory on the savannah.
And you can try to run all the fancy apps you want.
But when that ancient battery gets too hot, like when a rival male moves in on your mate, the whole system crashes. The phone overheats, the screen goes black, and it forcefully shuts down the software. The biology overrides the technology.
That is a remarkably accurate way to conceptualize the dynamic between the neocortex and the limbic system. The hardware, the limbic system, is designed for an environment where losing a mate meant evolutionary death.
It wasn't just a bruised ego.
Exactly. Apes with incredibly long childhoods, like humans, are innately designed to take a proprietary possessive interest in their mates. Human children are born helpless and take an astonishing amount of resources to raise.
You can't afford to be indifferent to the partner helping you provide those resources.
You simply cannot.
And the author points out something fascinating about our language here, too. The linguistic clues we use every day that completely give away our possessive nature. We say, my husband, my wife, my kid.
Right, we don't say, this is the cohabitant I am experiencing the universe with.
We default instantly to ownership.
Because, as he explains the biological logic, my genetic interests are the same as me. Love isn't free. If you are truly indifferent to someone, you set them free. But if you genuinely love them, your biological imperative is to try to possess them.
To build a fence around them?
Yes, to secure that incredibly expensive, long-term genetic investment.
Love is expensive.
Yeah.
That is such a heavy countercultural takeaway. We listen to pop songs all day telling us love is free and light.
But it's not.
And if this sounds like a dark view of love to you listening right now, buckle up, because it gets significantly darker when the text forces us to look at the historical data on male violence.
We have to go there, because if we're having an honest conversation about evolutionary biology, we have to look at the brutal math of jealousy.
Why does it even exist?
Exactly. It's not a personality defect. It's a highly selected, naturally occurring trait, and the math is chilling. Jealous males sired more surviving children than tolerant males.
Because the tolerant ones, the guys practicing free love on the savannah, got cuckolded.
The math is inescapable. Males who hated being cuckolded, who experienced such intense rage that they murdered rival males. Those males passed on more genes than the peaceful males who were fine with their mates accepting sperm donations.
We are the direct descendants of the most jealous, violent apes on the savanna.
Yes. For wombless apes males, the biological reality is that jealousy equals either hypervigilance or outright violence.
And he backs this up with real-world evidence. He points to physical sexual dimorphism, the fact that men and women are moderately different sizes.
Which is a crucial biological indicator. Look at gibbons, which are strictly monogamous. Zero male-male competition for mates. The males and females are exactly the same size.
No evolutionary need to be bigger if you aren't fighting.
Right. But look at gorillas, where one silverback fights off all others for a massive harem. The males are twice the size of the females. Humans fall right in the middle.
Moderately dimorphic.
Men are generally taller with more upper body mass. That fact alone tells us our evolutionary history features significant male-to-male physical competition.
It's written in our bone structure. He also points to the innate male instinct for ambition and status seeking, and female attraction to that ambition.
But where it gets truly undeniable and quite disturbing is the sociological data. He cites a foundational study in criminology by Marvin Wolfgang.
The Philadelphia murder study.
Yes, Wolfgang exhaustively studied murders in Philadelphia in the mid-20th century. He interviewed murderers, analyzed police reports, and categorized the motives, and the findings were staggering.
Almost 40% of the murders were caused by what the police deemed trivial altercations.
40%.
Just to be clear for the listener, we're not talking about organized crime hits or bank robberies. We're talking about an insult, a curse word, someone getting jostles on the sidewalk, looking at another man's girlfriend too long.
4 out of 10 dead bodies in that study resulted from a seemingly meaningless slight.
Why would a rational human risk their life, risk a concrete prison cell, to kill over a minor insult at a tavern?
In a modern society, it looks like temporary insanity. But through the lens of the Pleistocene era, in a tribe of maybe 50 to 100 people, a public insult wasn't just a bruised ego.
It was a visible dip in social status.
And status was the exact equivalent of access to resources and sex. It was the only currency that mattered. If you accepted an insult without retaliating, you moved down the hierarchy.
And if you move down, you don't mate.
Your genetic line is in jeopardy. So, to the ancient programming, deploying lethal violence to defend your honor wasn't a mistake. It was a mathematically sound reproductive strategy.
Wait, I have to stop you there. Are we saying humans have no free will here? That biology completely excuses some guy pulling a weapon over a spilled drink, because that sounds like a massive cop-out.
It's a critical point, and we have to be clear, and, we're not endorsing this behavior, just analyzing the source. We cannot confuse explanation with justification.
Okay, good.
The author isn't arguing for biological determinism. We have a highly developed prefrontal cortex that gives us veto power over our impulses. The point is that the impulse to do so is not a glitch. It's a feature of our ancient hardware.
We just have to actively exert energy to suppress it.
Exactly. The hardware sends the signal. Threat detected, deploy violence. Our modern software has to step in and say, no, we are at an Applebee's, stand down. But the urge itself is deeply embedded.
So we need to cut our inner caveman some slack for feeling the urge, even if we hold the modern human accountable for acting on it.
Well said.
And to drive this point home about how this ancient hardware runs silently in the background, the author brings up this incredible example. Steve Ballmer, the former CEO of Microsoft.
Ah, the monkey boy speech. This is perhaps the most entertaining part of the text.
If you haven't seen this, there's this infamous video of Steve Ballmer giving a keynote to thousands of his tech employees. If you read the transcript, it's standard corporate stuff. Diligence, innovation, crushing the market.
Very rational, neocortex-driven message.
But the author says to watch the video again, but turn the sound completely off.
It changes everything.
It's wild. Muted. You aren't watching a billionaire discussing software. You're watching a massive alpha ape displaying for the troop. Ballmer is marching heavily back and forth. He's sweating profusely, waving his arms in these aggressive arcs.
Making intensely aggressive, distinctly simian facial expressions.
His neocortex is talking about Windows, but his limbic system is screaming, I am the alpha male, look at my size. Ooh, ooh.
The author even jokes that Ballmer looks like he's winding up to throw invisible feces at the audience.
It's a visceral juxtaposition. It highlights perfectly how our brand new neocortex, the part responsible for language and complex sociality, is really just a thin, fragile overlay.
Desperately trying to manage a very old, very loud animal brain.
And the author is actually pretty self-aware about this in his own life because he spends time mocking his own hypocritical attempts to rationalize his primate behavior during the commune meltdown.
When he was jealous over his rival, whose name, incredibly, was Moonglow.
Moonglow. Perfect for the era.
Right. The author couldn't just admit he was acting like an angry ape. His entire identity was wrapped up in being a superior intellectual.
So he dressed his raw biological panic up in high philosophy. He explicitly claimed it wasn't jealousy. He told his girlfriend he was experiencing profound anger over lying in the Heideggerian sense.
He actually recommended she sit down and read the French philosopher Michel Foucault.
To understand his intricate position on why he could have multiple mates, but she had an obligation to be pure for him.
Which perfectly illustrates the hidden function of the intellect in these situations, justification. We don't use our intellect to find objective truth. We use it to construct a bulletproof defense for what our biology has already decided we want.
His girlfriend, thankfully, pointed out the absurdity. She noted he was quoting dense French philosophy while aggressively waving his eating fork in the air like a rainforest frond.
Exactly. So this brings up a massive question. Is our entire rational brain just a highly paid PR team for our inner caveman?
Are all our ethical frameworks just sophisticated press releases for our glands?
Evolutionary psychology strongly points in that direction. The neocortex evolved recently to control immediate destructive instincts just enough to allow for long-term planning in a social group.
But ultimately, rationality serves the instincts.
The quote the author uses is so sharp. Without instinct, rationality has no point. Your intellect is the steering wheel and the GPS, but your biological imperatives, survival, mating, are the engine.
The GPS picks the route, but it can't choose the destination. You use your intellect to get exactly what your ancient instincts demand.
Whether that's status, resources, or a mate.
And what those instincts demand gets really complicated and, frankly, mathematically unfair when we look at the deep biological differences between men and women.
The reproductive math of polygyny versus monogamy?
Right. And to be clear, again, we are just unpacking the evolutionary biology theories in the text here. But the text explores this by looking at marmoset monkeys.
Marmosets offer a very clear illustration of the tension between male and female reproductive strategies.
Okay, so the researchers observed that slutty male marmosets, the promiscuous ones, produce significantly more surviving offspring than monogamous males. Because sperm is cheap, so they play a volume game.
But the tragic catch is for the females.
Yeah. Females who mate with these promiscuous cads end up having fewer surviving offspring than females who mate with boring monogamous males.
Because the promiscuous males are off looking for the next mating opportunity. They provide zero childcare, zero protection, zero resources.
The female is left holding the bag in a dangerous environment.
And this perfectly defines the core biological tension. The author states it as a biological rule. Polygyny, one male, multiple females, is almost always mathematically better for the genetic legacy of a sperm maker.
But monogamy is almost always better for the genetic legacy of a womb carrier who has to invest massive bodily resources into gestation.
Right. Though he does add a funny caveat. Monogamy is best for the female, except when she wants to sneak in some bad boy genes.
Ah, the dual mating strategy.
Exactly. Seeking a stable partner for resources, but maybe opportunistically seeking out a highly dominant male during her fertile window for optimal genetics. But generally, the tension remains. The sperm maker is incentivized for quantity. The womb carrier requires quality and committed resources.
And this applies directly to humans. The text looks at human societies across the globe that legally and culturally allow polygyny, and the statistics are grim for the women and children.
On average, children born into polygynous marriages are significantly less likely to survive to adulthood than those in monogamous marriages.
And the second and third wives have far fewer surviving children than the first wives, because the male's resources, time, wealth, protection, are being diluted.
A pie cut into 6 pieces is smaller than a pie cut in half.
Exactly. Yet the man at the center has more children overall. So for his genetics, it's a massive win. But socially, it's a nightmare. The author notes that the vast majority of divorces in these societies are driven by co-wives viciously fighting over diluted resources.
While the men claim to be faultless saints just trying to love everyone equally.
Right. But this brings us to a fascinating exception. Because sometimes women seemingly happily share a husband without the destructive infighting. They form a kite bond.
Why aren't they grabbing each other's beads like the hot tub commune?
Yeah, exactly.
It comes down to a cold economic equation, the wealth to dependent ratio. Sharing a husband is only beneficial if the man has a truly massive surplus of resources. The math only works if he has enough wealth to support 20 wives, but only takes 10.
So the wealth isn't spread too thin. Nobody is missing a meal.
Exactly. In specific cases, the text cites highly wealthy Mormon communities, certain elite Pakistani groups. The women are so overwhelmingly well provided for that the biological panic over resource scarcity simply never triggers.
Their limbic systems stay calm.
There are no scraps to fight over, so they bond, share child rearing, and often form a powerful syndicate that bosses the alpha male around.
A syndicate. I love it. And this brings us to what I think is the absolute mic drop question of the deep dive. The author quotes anthropologist Laura Betzig, who distills this dynamic into one hypothetical question for women.
It's a brutal question.
She asks, which would you rather be, the third wife of John F. Kennedy or the first wife of Bozo the Clown?
It violently forces you to bypass romantic ideals and look strictly at the raw calculus of resource acquisition.
It's like asking someone to choose transportation. Would you rather have exclusive, 100% ownership of a rusted-out bicycle that you have to pedal uphill in the rain? That's Bozo.
You own him completely, but he gets you nowhere.
Exactly. Or would you rather share a luxury private jet with 2 other people? You don't get the jet to yourself. You have to coordinate schedules. Maybe you don't even like the other passengers. But you're flying first class sipping champagne. That's JFK.
When you look through the unforgiving lens of pure survival, the sharing dynamic makes total logical sense.
The math checks out. High-status resources divided by 3 are still better than the undivided resources of a low-status male. The imperative is securing the best outcome for offspring, not a romantic ideal.
But that logic works for billionaires and politicians. What about regular guys?
Right. Can broke guys still get multiple wives?
Yeah.
Because if you're a guy listening, feeling restricted by modern monogamy, the author playfully asks, do you want to move to a society where several women will eagerly volunteer to share you, cook your meals, and recommend you to their friends?
Framing it as the ultimate porn star life for paupers.
But there is a massive, horrifying catch to this fantasy.
This is where the biology gets incredibly dark. To achieve this as a man with zero wealth, you have to relocate to a highly dangerous environment. Rampant, inescapable, lethal diseases.
Walking naked among tsetse flies, flesh-eating parasites, streams where sick children die. It's bleak. Why does disease change the mating math so drastically?
Because in an environment with high pathogen stress, the most valuable resource a man can offer isn't money or food, it's his immune system.
But how do you prove you have a good immune system in a prehistoric setting? You can't hand over a lab report.
You prove it by surviving. If a man reaches adulthood without crippling skeletal deformities or dropping dead from a fever, he is breathing proof of superior genetics.
He survived the gauntlet that killed his peers. His sheer physical presence is his resume.
Precisely. So female mate choice shifts entirely away from seeking wealth or fidelity and moves entirely towards seeking health.
They actively prefer polygyny because they'd rather share the healthiest, parasite-resistant male than have exclusive rights to a faithful male with a weak immune system.
Think of the bodyguard analogy. If you live in a safe, gated suburb, the California commune, you want your bodyguard to be exclusively focused on you. You want monogamy.
But if you live in an active war zone, the high pathogen environment, you don't care if he's attentive. You just want the biggest, most lethal guy, even if you have to share his protection.
Because if you mate with the weak, faithful male in a disease zone, your children inherit a weak immune system and they will likely die.
The biological logic is cold but sound. The author summarizes this with the line I'll never forget. Nothing turns on a woman like a robust immune system.
In patriarchies with plenty of parasites, powerful parental providers get to be polygynous.
It perfectly connects everything. The hot tub crowd thought they were so advanced practicing free love.
But they were just play acting.
Yeah.
LARPing free love in a safe, resource-rich environment. True polygyny in nature isn't driven by enlightened philosophy. It's driven by harsh...
Not Mitchuli and Foucault.
Biology fundamentally does not care about our utopian ideals. It cares about the continuation of our genetic code.
Okay, let's pull all this together. We've covered a mountain of deeply fascinating, sometimes disturbing ground today. From a 1980s California commune imploding over moonglow, to the grim math of marmosets, to the defensive strategies of the Pleistocene savanna, and the brutal calculus of JFK versus Bozo the Clown.
And through it all, we arrived at the humbling realization that our shiny new neocortex is often just a sophisticated PR tool justifying ancient primate instincts.
Love is expensive. The jealousy, the possessiveness, the flashes of anger, it's there because for millions of years, our genetic survival absolutely depended on it. So next time you feel a pang of your rational jealousy, cut your inner caveman some slack. It's just the ancient savannah echoing in your modern brain.
Your hardware is functioning exactly as designed. It's up to your software to decide how to respond.
But before we officially wrap up, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought. And again, we're just posing the question here, not making a political statement. But if it's true that all our grand philosophies and social theories are just servants to our ancient status instincts,
Then what about today?
right, are our most modern, enlightened social justice debates and massive political movements actually just sophisticated, highly networked new ways for us to compete for status and reproductive advantage within the modern tribe?
It forces you to look at every heated debate online in a completely different, purely biological light. Are we truly debating ethics to find truth, or are we simply puffing out our chests and displaying for the troop to secure our spot in the hierarchy?
Think about that next time you see someone aggressively posturing online or at a dinner party. Just imagine them stripped down to that basic stick figure on the restroom door, running million-year-old hardware, frantically trying to secure their place on the savannah. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the why behind your actions. Keep an eye on your inner caveman, and we'll catch you next time.